types of students. So students who already know a lot and students who know less. And for this reason, we will split the group in the first 3 lectures into 2 parts, or maybe 4. So one group will receive, we will tell some very interesting things that are a bit harder, and it's not needed to know it for the exam. And for the other group, we will start from very basic things and start to build up the theory of computation. So, so why is the theory of computation, why should you study it? So you have serial courses on algorithms, where you try to find efficient algorithms, and you also learn to think about algorithms from the high level. So you receive simplified simple settings where you have to think theoretically about an algorithm. And in practice, things will be more messy. But the idea is that you learn the basic big ideas so you can find the algorithm. And in computational complexity, there is a lot of focus on the reverse, showing that, so presenting an algorithm that works well and showing that no other algorithm can do better. So we prove lower bounds. Sorry, I should first breathe a little bit.
You're actually allowed to remove the mask. You're actually allowed to remove the mask while
yeah, okay.
lecture.
Okay, so you will learn both things. And the idea is if you're faced with a problem and you think, oh, something should go better, then the idea is that you play out lower bound techniques against trying to find a better algorithm. So it always happens in research, that when you're stuck, you try to prove that no better algorithm is possible, and you get stuck there also, but then getting stuck provides a hint for the other side, and so you go back and forth. And in this course, you will receive some tools on how to prove lower bounds. So the theory of computation, of computational complexity, is a theory that studies resources needed for some computation. So resources is time, space, communication, and maybe amount of randomness. What else? There are more. Yeah, so what else? What other resources do you know? How much of the input you need to read, sample complexity, query complexity, such things. So the aim is to provide an optimal algorithm, so a very good algorithm, and prove that no other algorithm can do better. Okay, so the overview of the course, like the first 4 lectures, we will talk about the classes P and NP. So NP is a type of hard problem where you can provide certificates. So when you have a positive solution, you can kind of have a proof, and many of you already know, but some of you don't know this already. Then afterwards, we'll talk about space complexity, polynomial space, the class of being polynomial space bounded, and this is important in games, like finding winning strategies, but then have applications in places where there is adversarial setting, so maybe in finance or something. We will also speak about probabilistic computation and polynomial time, how this class is defined. And in this last part, the last 4 lectures, we will talk about communication complexity. So many lower bound techniques are obtained from communication complexity, especially in streaming algorithms, where your data goes on the fly and you don't have space to store most of your data. So that's overview for the course, and I think that's everything for introduction. Okay, so there will be on the practical side, so how are you graded? So there will be first an hour, 20 minutes lecture, then exercises. So there will be a seminar list, and it's already printed. There are about 5 to 10 exercises, regular exercises. If you finish solving all of them, there you will see 2 homework exercises on the bottom, and you can start to fill in, to work out homework exercises. So if you solved a few exercises, you can ask me or Sergey to check the solution. So you write something, and then we might ask a bit more about it if you forgot some special case. And if you solved all the exercises, or sometimes I will say all but one, but for this lecture it's all, then you can show us the homework, solutions of homework exercises. So usually students who want to have a solution checked, some do it one by one, others do it in groups of 3, some tells 5 at once, so it's either how you do that. But we only, so the idea is that homework exercises can be checked in class, and if you forgot some special case, we can ask it. But if you don't solve it in class, you have to write it out in detail. So then make sure you have all special cases and so on, and then an assistant will grade it, and I forgot his name. Maxime. So he will tell you how you should submit to them. So there is a wiki for this course. I already made it. And there on the top, Maxime will say. So it's a very good idea to make your homework every week. But since the group is so diverse, I don't want to fix your schedule, and I just made 3 deadlines. But you're allowed to send to Maxime every week, and then he will grade it whenever it's time. The idea of the homework is if you make it the week in advance, you will have better chance of understanding the next lecture, and then your time inside the class is more efficient. There is a textbook, Introduction of Computation by Sipser, for the first, let's say, half of the course. So you will also find it on the wiki, or maybe I forgot. Okay, I will. If I will add it. So if you have very little background, then you might learn a bit extra in this book. For practice, and there will be, for the marks, 35% of the mark is on homework, 35 will be on the colloquium, and 30% on the problems exam. So for the colloquium, you will receive a week or 2 weeks in advance a list of questions, and you can look to previous years if you want to prepare a bit more in advance. There's just like every theory lecture is 1 or 2 big theorems and a few definitions. So then there are questions like define this and prove this. So every lecture will give 1 or 2 questions for the colloquium, or maybe 3 either. It's not that strict. Okay, more questions? Yeah.
Could you please give out your personal contacts?
Yeah, it's also on the wiki, and I can write it, of course. No, it's not yet on the wiki, but I will add it. It's a good point. So, and you can always ask for additional explanation. So I really like to explain things over and over again. I like to do it. So just send me an email if you think things are going bad for the course. Send me an email. And Sergey also will write his email at some point. Okay. So sometimes I didn't discuss with you yet. So
No problem.
so okay, yeah. So maybe okay, I should be careful with such things. But last year there was a system that sometimes in the problem list there is an extra exercise, and then it's much harder. And if you solve it, you get bonus points on the problem exam. So then it helps you to get maximal score 10 out of 10. And so how does it work? There is some funny formula. So I don't know in advance how many extra problems there are. But if there are n extra problems, and you have k of them correct, then the formula for the number of extra points is given by square root 6 to the power n minus k. And this will be... So the previous year Volodya was teaching, and he gave us this formula, and somehow people were happy to solve the extra problems in a reasonable amount. So I just decided to keep the same formula. So the problems exam is graded out of 10, and this amount will be added. So if there are n extra problems during the year, and you solve k of them, then if you solve all of them, so then you will have six extra points. So you only need to solve 2 problems to have maximal score on the problems exam. There is also mega extra problems. It's just a problem where we don't count it in the n, but probably it won't happen. Okay, and it happened that people solve all but 2 of them, or all 3 of them. So you know how to go.
You solve a 0 problem. 0 also?
Yeah. So if you solve 0, yeah, it also increases. That's true. So before rounding, everyone will have funny grades. But of course, it's neglected. So if n is around 8, it will be very small. Now I should think what else I should tell about the course.
So if we have 0 bonus
Yeah,
tasks,
indeed. So if k is equal to 0.
no, if n is equal to 0.
No. They're just problem lists, and then we will think of a nice extra problem that's not too easy, not too hard, and then and will be about 8, I think. So this lecture there is no extra problem, but probably next lecture. So I think I have explained all practical things. So then for this lecture and also the next 2 lecture, as I said, we split the groups into 2. Sergey will speak this lecture about what is Turing machine, what's polynomial time, polynomial space, exponential time, exponential space, multi-tape Turing machine, universal, so Turing machines that simulate other machines. And I will teach, so the extra material, if you already know all this, then you can come with me. I will speak about parameterized complexity. So what is this topic? So when we receive a problem that's an NP, we have no hope to find polynomial time algorithm, and the best we can do is exponential time algorithm. But still, sometimes, it will not work, exponential time algorithm. You cannot prove anything. But sometimes there is a special parameter in the problem. For example, if you want to find a clique of size k, then there is an algorithm. If you know k is small, you do have polynomial time algorithm. So you can try all subsets of size k, and so you have at least some. So if k is small, you have something. And then there is a big theory about how to deal with NP complete problems. So inside the class of NP, there are more subclasses. So it's called W hierarchy. So next lecture I will speak about W hierarchy, but this lecture I will just teach a few tricks to deal with NP hard problems. So it can help if you apply for a job. There is on the internet, you can look like 500 algorithms, questions, and you will see that some people give you NP hard problem. So it's very easy if you're an interviewer and the guy say I have an algorithm that work in cubic time, so you can but then also if you can optimize this algorithm, and so they will ask you, like knapsack seems to be popular, and they can, so you have dynamic programming algorithm, and so on. And today I will talk about vertex cover problem. So there is algorithm that find the vertex cover in time 2 to the power k divided by 9. I mean, it's not 9, it's like a little bit less. And then people say, okay, if we really want, we can have computation power 10 to the power 20. So that means we can, for quite big case, we can find vertex cover. But then this algorithm is too complicated. Actually, I'm not so sure about the bound. I forgot what is the state of the art. But we will talk about an algorithm that requires 3 poly k to find a vertex cover of size k plus poly n. And so it's interesting because if your graph is very big, we will first learn a general trick. It's called kernelization. We will reduce the graph to a graph of size 3k, and then we can brute force search click in this graph. So we show that the big graph, the big graph is equivalent to a small problem, and then apply 2 to the power 3k. So I will talk about this. If you want, I can also talk about quantum computation.
Excuse me, can I, we are talking about the cover problem. So
Yeah,
what is K?
So,
N is the number of vertices and K.
Yeah. So you have a graph with n vertices, and the question is, does it have a cover of size at most k? That means that you find k points such that every edge lies on one of these points. It's an important problem in computer science. So so I'm following a book